buenos días a todos los que nos acompañan hoy de manera presencial o a través de nuestra transmisión en vivo. Mi nombre es Paola Gordón Luna. En nombre de los organizadores y socios del Centro del Agua para América Latina y el Caribe, Tecnológico de Monterrey, Fundación FEMSA, Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, Red del Agua para América Latina y el Caribe, Núcleo Estratégico de Decisiones, les damos la más cordial bienvenida a este punto de encuentro donde buscamos intercambiar experiencias y conocimiento a los retos que enfrentamos en la región y las oportunidades que el Nexo Agua-Energía-Alimentos nos ofrece. En continuación, obviamente, con la iniciativa TecNexus del Tecnológico de Monterrey. Antes de iniciar, me gustaría agradecer hoy la presencia de los invitados que nos acompañan, al doctor Manuel Sertuche, decano de la Escuela de Ingeniería y Ciencias del Tecnológico de Monterrey, al licenciado Mariano Montero, director de Fundación FEMSA, el ingeniero Ricardo Martínez Lagunes, del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, y al doctor Alberto Mendoza, director del Centro del Agua para América Latina y el Caribe. También queremos agradecer la presencia de Víctor Treviño, director de Energía y Medio Ambiente de FEMSA, Erika Morales Roque Yáñez, de Secretaría de Desarrollo Urbano y Ecología, Eduardo Albert Villarreal, de CAINTRA, José Zavala, gerente de Sostenibilidad FEMSA Comercio, y vamos a ver quién más, por aquí. Listo, pues muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Para dar inicio quisiera pedir al doctor Manuel Sertuche que nos brinde unas palabras.
Muy buenos días a todos, un gusto estar aquí, un gran placer tener esta oportunidad de a todos y a cada uno de ustedes darle la más cordial bienvenida a este importante y significativo evento que marca varias cosas. Primero, la celebración de una iniciativa que empezó hace 10 años, que es nuestro Centro del Agua, un centro, un grupo de incansables trabajadores en pro y en beneficio del agua, uno de los factores más determinantes de nuestra calidad de vida. Y anoche, haciendo un recuento de lo que hemos pasado aquí en el Tecnológico con este Centro del Agua, pues me vinieron a la mente muchas cosas y quisiera tomar esta oportunidad para agradecer a todos los miembros actuales y a los que nos han ayudado a través del tiempo a forjar la presencia de este centro y con su trabajo, su esfuerzo, pues nos ha llevado a tener una carrera de 10 años de logros, de esfuerzos, de trabajo y de impacto en la comunidad. Es innegable que en estos 10 años la presencia, la coalición y el soporte y la camaradería que hemos tenido particularmente con la Fundación FEMSA y con el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo ha sido, por decirlo menos, invaluable. Han sido los perfectos socios para que esto haya funcionado. Y lo que más, a nombre del Tecnológico Monterrey, nos da orgullo y un entusiasmo es que vemos el futuro y otros 10 años y otros 10 años con mucho ahínco y con mucha fuerza y con mucha energía. Esta trilogía de asociamiento o de asociación que hemos tenido con la Fundación FEMSA y con el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo ha atraído a otras organizaciones pendientes del agua que procuran el trabajo de la sustentabilidad integral y particularmente el factor agua, a empresarios y a otras organizaciones a través de, no únicamente en el contexto nacional, sino también en toda Latinoamérica, por decirlo menos. Entonces estamos muy contentos, estamos muy satisfechos y hoy también marcamos el inicio de esta nueva concepción, de este nuevo esfuerzo que está haciendo el Centro del Agua para convertirse en el pivote central y más importante no únicamente del agua, pero también del nexo agua, energía, alimentos. Y ver esta perspectiva no únicamente como un objeto el agua como un objeto de estudio, sino como una parte integral de un arreglo de factores que contribuyen no únicamente en la sostenibilidad, sino también en el impacto en la calidad de vida de las personas. Entonces, bueno, estamos muy contentos y ese es el objetivo central de esta ocasión, celebrar este relanzamiento de nuestro centro a través de este Nexo, Agua, Energía, Alimentos. Y por ello pues, estamos muy contentos. Muchas gracias a todos por su soporte, por su apoyo. Repito e insisto, muy en particular para la Fundación FEMSA y para el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, que desde el año 1 han estado mano a mano con nosotros. A todos nuestros amigos interesados en el agua, al gobierno del estado, muchísimas gracias por la alianza, por el soporte y el impacto que hemos tenido. Y a todos ustedes, muchas gracias por acompañarnos en este tan especial momento. Buenos días.
Muchas gracias, doctor Sertuche, por sus palabras. A continuación, le cedo el micrófono al licenciado Mariano Montero para que nos diga más palabras.
Buenos días. Aprovecho también para agradecer la presencia de Martín Mendoza, subsecretario para el Medio Ambiente del Gobierno de Nuevo León. Lo que estamos viendo acá es, creo, el nuevo paradigma que tenemos que poner en marcha para resolver o enfrentar los problemas del siglo XXI. El siglo XX tenía un paradigma de solución que no funciona en el siglo XXI. Y en la base de este nuevo paradigma está la acción colectiva. Por eso me da muchísimo gusto que esté Heineken presente, PepsiCo, FEMSA, Oxxo, en fin, una serie de empresas, Gruma, que estamos todos convencidos de que junto con la academia, junto con el gobierno, formamos ese triángulo dorado que marca la nueva estrategia, el nuevo paradigma de la acción colectiva. El problema es de todos, no es de una sola institución, y entonces todos tenemos que resolverlo. Cada uno de nosotros tenemos un rol muy importante y hoy celebramos que la academia está tomando esta participación muy activa porque la ciencia, el qué hacer, depende mucho de las especialistas que están integrando el Centro del Agua y que ahora toman este nuevo reto que es ampliar la visión al Nexo, Agua, Energía y Alimentos. Así que estamos muy entusiasmados, creemos que esta es la manera en que tenemos que trabajar, tenemos todos que poner nuestro mejor esfuerzo, nuestros mejores recursos, porque la verdad no hay otra manera de enfrentar este gran reto. Así que gracias a todos por su presencia, gracias al Tecnológico por su disposición siempre abierta a estar explorando estos campos, al BID con quien tenemos como 5 o 6 iniciativas diferentes y seguramente seguiremos trabajando por el bien de nuestra sociedad, y a las autoridades del gobierno con quien hemos encontrado siempre una forma muy cercana de trabajo y de colaboración. Creemos que aquí en Nuevo León las cosas se pueden hacer muy bien y tenemos que demostrarlo ya con los hechos. Gracias, bienvenidos y que sea un día muy provechoso, que todos nos llevemos aprendizajes interesantes. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, licenciado Montero. Aprovecho para agradecer la presencia de Blanca Bambila, Heineken, Luis Treviño, PepsiCo, muchas caras conocidas, el doctor Ricardo Ramírez, decano asociado de la Escuela de Ingeniería y Ciencias, y todos ustedes que nos acompañan. A continuación, invito al ingeniero Ricardo Martínez Lagunes, del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo.
Muy buenos días, pues un placer estar aquí siendo parte de los socios de esta importante iniciativa. Y bueno, la región de América Latina y el Caribe es realmente rica en recursos naturales, lo que potencialmente permite tener mucha agua, energía y alimentos. El reto, sin embargo, es transformar esta riqueza natural para mejorar vidas. Cómo lograr que el agua, la energía y los alimentos lleguen a todos los hogares de la región, no solo de hoy, sino del futuro. Ese es el gran reto que tenemos. Y para esto se requiere mucha innovación para lograr modificar pues tanto las políticas públicas, el marco regulatorio y la forma tradicional que tenemos de trabajar por sectores. Cada sector de alguna manera ha avanzado en su propio ámbito, pero ahora lo que falta es trabajar en estas interrelaciones. El reto es de infraestructura, el reto es institucional, de tecnología y conocimientos. El carácter multisectorial que tiene el BID le permite tener acceso a personal técnico especializado en las distintas áreas del conocimiento y poder trabajar en los aspectos de desarrollo de recursos de las instituciones y de la gobernanza misma para las mejores prácticas. El BID apoya esta iniciativa como la que se ha apoyado del Centro del Agua para encontrar nuevos caminos para avanzar en las soluciones que se requieren. Celebramos que la academia convoque a diversos actores para reflexionar sobre el tema y pues nos sumamos a este gran esfuerzo. Muchas gracias por la invitación y buen día.
Muchísimas gracias. También agradecemos la presencia de su secretario, Martín Mendoza. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. A continuación, invito a pasar enfrente a todos nuestros invitados para dar inauguración a este evento. ¿El micrófono? Ya. No, sí está funcionando.
Me toca Me toca la formalidad de declarar inaugurada este foro. Entonces, siendo las 9:18 de la mañana de este 13 de febrero del 2019, formalmente declaro inaugurados los trabajos de este foro Nexo, Agua-Energía-Alimentos, una visión integral para la sostenibilidad. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos, que tengan un excelente día de intercambio y de aprendizaje y muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Buen día a todos.
Le cedo la palabra al doctor Alberto Mendoza.
Excelente. Pues muchas gracias. Buenos días a todos. Como pueden ver, estamos muy contentos, estamos muy entusiasmados con este evento. Y para empezar nuevamente, muy buenos días y muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos a este evento que para el Centro del Agua, evidentemente, y para la Escuela de Ingeniería y Ciencias marca un hito muy importante en su joven pero muy fructífera historia. Como decía el doctor Certuche, en noviembre de 2018, hace apenas 3 meses, el Centro del Agua para América Latina y el Caribe cumplió 10 años de existencia. Este tiempo ha estado enmarcado por un proceso de crecimiento y consolidación de las actividades y capacidades que el Centro del Agua ha forjado para dar cumplimiento a su misión, que es brindar soluciones que nos permitan avanzar en la seguridad hídrica de la región. Claramente este andar no hubiera sido posible sin la muy valiosa cooperación de nuestros socios, la Fundación FEMSA y el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo y otros tantos aliados que hemos estado trabajando con ellos a través del tiempo. Hace 10 años gestamos juntos este sueño de poder consolidar un centro del agua que pudiera atender los retos de la región y podemos decir que hoy en día es toda una realidad. Sin embargo, ahora 10 años de la existencia del Centro del Agua, hemos hecho un alto en el camino y hemos comenzado a reflexionar sobre cuál debe ser el camino que debe seguir el centro. Claramente, los ejes de acción del centro son relevantes: la investigación, el desarrollo tecnológico, la innovación, la formación de capacidades, la divulgación. Y asimismo la temática es de máxima prioridad, sin lugar a dudas, plasmada como una de las metas y objetivos de desarrollo sostenible planteados por las Naciones Unidas, que nos permitirán, esperamos, transformar nuestro mundo. Agua limpia y saneamiento para todos. De igual manera, el talento formado y la infraestructura creada a través del centro ha permitido tener incidencia en la generación de nuevo conocimiento, así como en procesos de toma de decisión de alto nivel. Y aunque el mundo ha cambiado en los últimos 10 años, lamentablemente los grandes problemas de este planeta continúan: pobreza, contaminación, salud. El mundo actual requiere, como se había comentado, nuevos paradigmas para resolver la complejidad de estos problemas. Requerimos romper silos y trabajar coordinada e integralmente en la frontera de las disciplinas y en la frontera del conocimiento. Es así como en el centro sus especialistas han comenzado a trabajar en proyectos muy relevantes en este contexto: eficiencia energética en edificios no residenciales, movilidad sustentable y electromovilidad, cosecha conjunta de agua y energía para entornos urbanos que permitan detonar nuevos modelos para las ciudades. Asimismo, el Tecnológico de Monterrey ha declarado como una de sus grandes atenciones para su estrategia al 2030 el tema de tener ciudades que sean inteligentes, sostenibles, vivibles. Y alineados con la visión de la Escuela de Ingeniería y Ciencias, el Centro del Agua ha planteado convertirse en la plataforma a través de la cual se entrará la iniciativa Tech.Nexus. Seguiremos apostando evidentemente a nuestras actuales líneas de acción y claramente vendrán nuevas líneas para contribuir a la vivencia del nuevo modelo educativo TEC 21 del Tecnológico de Monterrey, por ejemplo. Sin embargo, nos planteamos una pregunta muy fundamental: ¿qué representa el nexo agua-energía-alimentos para el contexto de la región y cuáles son los retos y oportunidades para poder tener una incidencia y un alto impacto? Tenemos la fortuna de que nuestros socios, Fundación FEMSA y el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, comparten esta nueva línea de pensamiento y queremos concebir, como lo hicimos hace 10 años, un nuevo sueño. Y por ello hemos querido comenzar con este planteamiento, haciendo partícipe a la comunidad TEC, nuestros socios y nuestros aliados, en que juntos podamos empezar a pasar por el proceso, a caminar el proceso de la nueva configuración del centro. Y bueno, la primera pregunta evidentemente que salta a la mente es: ¿y de qué va el nexo? Y bueno, aquí es donde precisamente queremos pasar un tiempo y compartir estas experiencias de un grupo notable de colaboradores del centro para que nos ayuden a hacer estas definiciones. No voy a hablar mucho ya en este sentido, lo voy a dejar a nuestros especialistas que profundicen, pero reconocemos que hay una hiperconectividad entre el sector agua, la energía y los alimentos, y especialmente para América Latina y el Caribe el tema es de fundamental importancia por los problemas que se tienen de estrés hídrico, la seguridad hídrica y cómo está conectada la generación, por ejemplo, de energéticos al tema de agua. Una gran cantidad de energía que se produce en América Latina proviene de hidroeléctrica y entonces es un tema que se tiene que entender muy bien. Y evidentemente esto está en el contexto del desarrollo, la calidad de vida. Lo que queremos hacer es poder tener soluciones, ya sea a través de desarrollos tecnológicos, a través de metodologías, intervenciones en donde podamos tener una contribución al desarrollo económico de la región y aumentar la calidad de vida de los mismos, involucrando a nuestros socios, evidentemente. Y bueno, el día de hoy por la mañana tenemos un grupo de personas que nos van a hablar desde su trinchera qué es su visión del nexo, cuáles son las oportunidades que nos arroja tener esta concepción de lo que es el centro, particularmente para América Latina y el Caribe, y que también el centro se convierta en una especie de trampolín donde podamos traer nuevo conocimiento y poderlo apropiarlo y generar valor para América Latina y el Caribe. Y con eso, pues entonces voy a dar pie a nuestro moderador de esta sesión. Tenemos el gusto de contar con John Platko, que será nuestro moderador en la sesión, y me voy a permitir leer un poquito la semblanza de John, y para eso cambio al inglés. John Platko is a managing partner at ALO Advisors. John has more than 30 years of business, sustainability, environmental, health and safety leadership experience. John has led projects in more than 40 countries in North America, Latin America, Europe, and the Pacific Rim. He specializes in collective action initiatives related to water security, water stewardship, climate change resiliency, and formalization of waste management systems in emerging economies. Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you very much. And John, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto, and welcome everyone. It's a beautiful day to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Water Center. I've had the opportunity to work with the Water Center and some of the partners over the last 5 years, and the impact that they can make is incredible. Well, I'm here today to just work us through the presentations that we're going to have. And as you probably all have seen from our agenda, we have 2 sections today. We'll start the presentation with an exploration of the nexus and why it is important in terms of sustainable development. I have a very renowned panel that I'm going to invite to come to the stage here in a moment, and they're going to spend some time explaining to the group the current state of the nexus, defining the nexus, talking about interconnections between the various elements of this. We'll hear about energy and food. We'll hear about water and energy. And then we'll hear about water and food to get oriented. We'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll start to talk about how this applies in the Latin American and Caribbean context. And again, we'll have a technical overview, we'll talk about policy, and then we'll have a wrap-up around the practical implications of the solutions that are out there. So it's going to be a very exciting morning. And with that, I'd like to welcome up our first 3 panelists, please. Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. So first up, we'll have Dr. Antonio Torres. Dr. Antonio Torres is with the Food Process Engineering Group, the Department of Food Science and Technology at Oregon State University. Dr. Torres is an industrial, chemical, and food process engineer, currently leading a food process engineering group at Oregon State in collaboration with colleagues at OSU, Mexico, Chile, Spain, Portugal, and now China. He attended the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he received a master's degree in food microbiology and a PhD in food engineering. His expertise covers statistical design of food processing, packaging and storage, pressure processing technologies, and production and application of biomolecules and biopolymers. Next up, we'll have Frank Lodge, who will speak about water and energy. He's the director for the Center of Energy Efficiency at the University of California, Davis. Frank is the center's director and a professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. He began his career studying water and wastewater treatment and has developed a strong interest between energy, water, and health. He advocates performing fundamental research to advance knowledge and developing and deploying technologies and policies that improve environmental quality and the efficiency of resource consumption. His research efforts focus on energy and health implications of engineered and natural systems, designing sustainable systems and technologies, data security and privacy, and entrepreneurship. And our last panelist will be Greg Koch. He'll be discussing water and food. Greg is the Sustainable Development and Water Resource Management Advisor for Environmental Resources Management. Greg is a globally recognized leader in sustainable development, adaptation, and resiliency, along with water resource management and corporate water stewardship, sustainable agriculture, and related policy and finance solutions. He has extensive experience in successful business case development and strategic planning, financing sustainability solutions, supply chain assessment, risk assessment, and large program management. With that said, we'll begin our presentations with Antonio.
Great. Buenos dias, good morning. I have the honor to begin this presentation. And so, can I just go? So, my topics are energy and food. And when I was given this challenge, I said, my God, 20 minutes, I can talk 2 weeks, and it would be not enough time. And so I said, I need to focus. And before I continue, most of you, my friends know, my colleague Jorge Belti there, and some other colleagues here, President Ricardo, they know that I've joined this year. I will be full-time with Monterrey Tech. So right now, I'm no longer with Oregon State. Now I'm another techie. Very happy to do that. So when I said I need to give it some focus to my presentation, so since I really like the design of solutions, and one of my pet subjects is that those solutions need to include all the wealth of the data that we have. And typically what we do is that we work with mean values, and we get mean solutions, and by definition of means, that means that 50% of the time you will fail. That's unacceptable. I don't want to take so many risks. I mean, you take a lot of risks in life, you get married, and 50% of the marriage fails. So, I have failed. I have failed. But we got to do a little bit better. Okay, so that would be one of my topic in my presentation. So just a short presentation outline. When we do a problem, the first thing is we need data. I'm an engineer. I need data. Give me data. Okay, and so I'll talk a little bit about the quality of the data. And since I said I like to consider the variability of the data, my focus will be on the variability of that information that we tend to underuse and underestimate. And then very simply, very shortly, in just one slide, what is probabilistic engineering, okay? Then I just want to show just 2 examples of solutions to look at the food energy link. So one is life cycle analysis. Many of you have heard about it. And then an analysis of just a single step, so going back to the micro. Because when you are in the macro view, you sometimes lose sight of the problems. And today, I'm working on something that I thought that it was a simple solution and we knew everything, the refrigerator at home, okay? And I'll show you the relevance to this presentation. Okay, so as I said, first is data, okay? We know the problem. Everybody knows the problem. I mean, we are wasting a lot of food, and we are underutilizing a lot of our resources. And but that must decrease. We also know that we must increase through production. Okay, so let's look at the data. So right now, we express food production in terms of energy. We are producing about 2,830 kilocalories per person in the world. That would be fine because we need only 2,300. But the problem is that we are wasting about 700. So our current need right now, considering waste, is 3,000. And we are producing 2,800. Therefore, we have a problem, okay? And that gap is not good. It's not only not good because it's unhuman. It's bad for business. When you have stress in society, it causes trouble. And when you want to be in business, you want to have quiet, steady. You don't want to have troubles, okay? And we look at the future, and let's say that if we hopefully make food waste disappear, at current trend in production of food, even if we eliminate waste, we're going to be in trouble. So the problem with this analysis is that I'm just giving you a single value, the mean value of everything. And this is the mean value of the world. It doesn't tell us a damn thing about what's going on in the area of our interest, which is Mexico and the Caribbean, okay? So that's a problem. So we need to find new data. And now, give me, I cause trouble by choosing to have an interaction with my, okay, so here what we have in this slide, we have the average of the energy requirement in the world, okay? And it's not the same number everywhere in the world. I mean, body size the environment where you live, the type of work you need. Everybody needs a different amount of energy, okay? So here I have to make a choice. Am I gonna work with the average number? I'm gonna work with the minimum number? Which value should I use? And I'm saying we should at all. We don't, at the technical level, and we are gonna be providing technical solutions, we should provide information in our solutions that include everything, okay? Not just the average, not just the minimum, not just the maximum. We should use the full range of data, okay? And I'll show you how we can do that. And I'm gonna stop some of the interaction I was planning with this slide because I don't trust how we set up the system today. Okay, let's go back to my presentation. Okay, so let's see what is happening more regionally. So here we have different regions on the world on the x-axis there. And the red is the amount of waste and underutilization. And surprisingly, for many of you probably, the developed societies are the ones which are wasting the most. Okay, it's in the US, in Europe, in all developed societies that are wasting the most. It's also the wealthier who are developing, I mean, they can afford to waste it. Okay, unfortunately, we cannot afford to have that waste because it's causing trouble. Okay, and there we have a list of how much is wasted for each type of food. I'm not going to go through those numbers, but the important thing also I want to point out is that we're not only wasting food, we're wasting resources, and that's the problem, okay? We're wasting resources, and they are listed in order of scarcity. Number one is phosphorus. Number two is available land. We know that we cannot put more land into use. It causes trouble, okay? And of course, water, okay? And phosphorus, I mean, the first time I got involved into this Nexus connection, I didn't know about how important phosphorus is, and I should have known because my first graduate course was biochemistry. I came as a chemical engineer. I never had taken any bio course, and the first course was a chemistry. ATP, I mean, that's phosphorus, okay? So it has to be there, okay? There's no biological life without P, okay? And unfortunately, it's going into the water, and it's causing a lot of trouble, and it's a limited resource. And some of it is in very troubled areas, the north of Africa, where there's the Belisario group, which is a revolutionary group, and there's a belt that brings the phosphorus coming out of the most important mine in the world, 150 miles to the ocean where it gets shipped out. I'm surprised that I haven't heard any terrorist attack. All it would take to put a couple of bombs and belt breaks, and there's no more phosphorus supply coming from that mine. Okay, so phosphorus is a very dangerous supply. Okay, then I want to go again, but wait a second. There's another part where this data availability plays a major role, which is we have a lot of inequity. Okay, so this is a graph of the developing world where we are highlighting the inequity in the availability of food expressed as energy. Okay, the worst place in the world is in the red here, 0.5, is Haiti. Okay, very red is China. Okay, my wife is Chinese, and I've traveled extensively to China, not only to the big city like most people do, but I like to see the countryside. I've taken 5,000 kilometer road trips to really know China, okay? And there's a tremendous problem still in China. I mean, we have 400 million people that are doing well, but still we have about 1,200 million people that are in trouble, okay? So we have tremendous inequity in China. And in our region, Argentina, and the lightest color there is the one who's doing the best, okay? With a coefficient of variation of 0.2. And then we focus on our area of work, and you can see it's more reddish, okay? So Mexico and Central America, we not only have a problem of production, we have a problem of inequity, okay? So policy and social decisions will have to play a major role, so I'm glad somebody is going to talk about that. Okay, next slide. So, as I said, if we need to take all those inequity, means I need to work with the availability of the food distribution, the availability of the resources. I need to work with it. So there where probabilistic engineering will play a role. And it's the most stupid solution there is. It's so simple. I mean, all of us, when we calculate things, we do a lot of computational things. We multiply, we add, we divide, we integrate, okay? And at the end, we are obtaining some kind of an output from our calculation, and based on those output, we make a recommendation, okay? So this could be the carbon footprint, the water needs, whatever it is here. It should not be a single value. It should be, so this is the distribution that considers the variability of the system. So what we need to input in our calculation systems is data. So whether it's in life cycle analysis software, it should not be entering just mean values. We should be able to enter this. And there, I think the IT technology power of Monterrey Tech could play a major role. We can really make improvement to software for do life cycle analysis. Okay? So let's look at some example. Okay, life cycle analysis. When you go to the literature, in terms of food as a focus, we find a lot of life cycle analysis of agricultural production. Okay, so what is in green there, lots of studies. A little bit fewer, those when involved now the processing of the food into the product we find in the supermarket. And even fewer is when it gets to home. Okay, and how it gets distributed through the supermarket, there are much fewer studies. Okay, so what are the roles? First, we need to produce a food. Then the industry that I represent has to do two major tasks. One is to remove risk. I mean, we need to remove the pathogens, all the stuff that might make you sick or even kill you. And then we need to stabilize the product. Because if we don't stabilize it, we lose it. And then last, after we've done all this beautiful work, we need to preserve what we have accomplished. Okay? And that has to be done. Right? So let's just an example. Here we have some published work from the UK. So when we analyze this, we need to define a system. So we are going to analyze the Tamar catchment. And catchment is the people who live in there and all the resources that are using to live in there. So the water, the food is coming from, all that area defines a catchment. And everything else is imported into the system. So we'll have local things and important things. Okay? Everything local is within the catchment. Everything outside the catchment is imported. So when we analyze this thing, we're using this life cycle analysis of this catchment. This is for this particular population. So we're looking now at the catchment. And we see the problem. Okay? We all know what the problem is. Okay? Animal food is the most energy-intensive activity in our food production system, okay, compared to plant food. Now, what's happening in society? We are moving from eating this to eating more of this. So we're going in the wrong direction. So every time you have a vegetarian friend, just hug them, okay? Say, thank you, I can eat more beef tonight, okay? If we don't have them, we'll be more trouble. So let's promote vegetarians and all our friends, and then we eat steak ourselves, okay? Because we don't want to change, right? So, okay, and this has to do, here it represents the amount of energy being used in that catchment, the total energy, and this is per amount of food produced. So that's the same information assets. So things that I can see in the food analysis, for life cycle analysis work we could do. First of all those analyses, I'm using databases. And unfortunately, most of those databases are European-based information, US-based information, and then we apply them in Mexico. The information is not relevant, it's not the same, so we need to generate our own data, okay? We need to look at the food process and benefits. We haven't quantified them. Eliminate safety risks. If people don't go to the hospital, there's a lot of savings if they don't go. If they don't have diarrhea today, they can go to work. So all those things are important. The preservation of food, that's important. We produce it, we don't want to lose it, okay? And there are also some other benefits like the health benefits that we can put into food. Today, we're trying to produce food that not only feed you, but also give you a better life. That's the goal of new food technology. When I make you healthier, okay, and live longer, the problem, because now you stay along eating more food for a longer time, but it's okay, you can stay around. And also, we need to quantify somehow the benefits of good health choices. Because if the people start making good health choices, then we're going to solve major problems like diabetes, a very expensive problem to society, individually and for society. And as I said, all those databases, when we use it, they give you mean values, and you use a mean value, you propose a solution. That's wrong. We need to have the wealth of the. And I propose also that we cannot study every food, everything that you eat. It's impossible. It would be forever here, okay? And we want to finish. So we need to design a basket of food that we're going to put our attention. This is going to be all the food. And we should make a basket flexible enough that when we are here in the north of Mexico, we can make a basket that looks a little bit different than one in southern Mexico, so we can localize the solution. Okay, so there was a macro view. Let's now look at a very micro view, okay? A single step. So in preservation technologies, we have ancient technologies, drying, salting, sugar, and fermentation. Those are very ancient. Then we have some modern post-Napoleon, and you can ask me why I highlight Napoleon. And then we have what I work mostly in my research, this emergent technology, high pressure, pulse electric field, et cetera, okay? But all the food, after they get at my home, you open the container, and they're in the refrigerator, okay? So, and we haven't solved this refrigerator problem, okay? Oops, I pushed the wrong key, okay. Okay, so the refrigerator. First, it was invented. Second, we designed it and improved it. And then we have a problem. The refrigerant was the wrong one. So we said, don't use the refrigerant, and we replaced it. Then California said, you're consuming too much energy. Put regulations. And the energy reduced today by a factor of 5 or 10. But when we reduce the energy, we forgot that the refrigerator has to preserve food. So we need to balance these two things. And this is what needs to be done. And luckily, I'm involved in a project now trying to find a balance between the energy consumption and the food preservation of the refrigerator. Okay, I'm going to skip this because I'm being told. But I said before that we need to change. I was born in Viña, Chile, very hilly, but my love for bike started very early. I moved to Oregon. There's my bike. The environment changed, but my bike is there. Now, my wife got a job with NASA, so I had to move. And also, I'm remarried again. We had a baby. So our life is upside down right now, like my baby, okay? But my bike is still there, okay? We don't change easily. Sometimes it's a good thing. In this case, it's a very good thing that I haven't changed. But we need to. So I'm glad that we have Coca-Cola. They are so smart in messages and the way to create changes by good advertisement. So hopefully they can play also a role in that. Sorry that I went over the limit, but I get excited when I talk about this stuff, and it's so much fun. Thank you.
Next up, we'll have Frank Lodge talking about the water and energy component of the Nexus.
So good morning. It'll take me a second here to figure out the microphone. I tend to talk fairly loud. So I am the director of the Center for Water Energy Efficiency at the University of California, Davis. And I started this center 10 years ago, and it was a transition for me from work that I was doing into an entirely new field, which was the field of water and energy. And I'd like to just briefly tell you the story of the development of this center, because I think it highlights a lot of the elements that might be relevant for the conversation that's going to take place today. So we started 10 years ago, and it was me and one other employee, and we were very interested in the amount of energy that's embedded in water, and we were really focused on potable water at that point in time, so drinking water. And so drinking water, when it comes out of the tap, there's a whole series of activities that take place that require energy to get it to your tap. And so when I refer to embedded energy, I refer to all the energy that it takes to get the water to your tap. So we performed an analysis of the energy intensity, so how many kilowatt hours does it take to produce 1 million gallons or some unit thereof at one water utility. And that gained a lot of interest. And so we did that same analysis for many water utilities in California. And early on, we then asked the question, well, if we know how much energy is embedded in water, we can begin now to quantify how much energy is saved by how much water is saved. So if you change your toilets from a high-flow toilet to a low-flow toilet, it's actually saving energy. If you change your shower head from a high-flow shower head to a low-flow shower head, it actually saves energy. So those early projects, it's hard, oh, the green's hard to see. Those early projects are really focused on this area up here, which says water and energy efficiency and water demand. And from there, a company approached us, Jackson Family Wines, and it's one of the larger wine manufacturers in California. So they grow and bottle and distribute wine in California. And they were interested in us doing work similar to what we had done in the potable water sector. And that work really involved into looking at different types of technologies that help promote water reuse, water recycling, and heat recovery in some way. And so that work kind of falls over here. Again, I'm sorry, it's a green, but over here in the water reuse area. And then we were approached by a couple of wastewater utilities that were interested in this work, and we did the same work down here. And at that point in time, I realized it was really, we need to change focus. We were doing the same thing over and over again. So by this point in time, we had data from water utilities and wastewater utilities that covered 80% of the state of California's population, so about 26 million people. We had records of where your water came from, how it got to you, how much water you personally use, so we had personal identifiable information. And I said, wouldn't it be great if we could share this data with other people and let them drive innovation out of it? We've done what we can, now wouldn't it be great if we gave others a chance to do that? And I shared this idea with who effectively is the Secretary of Commerce for the state of California, and he looked at me and he said, "You're crazy." And so you all don't know me, but I will share something personal about me, which is the best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. So we spent another 5 years working in partnership with Microsoft to develop a platform that allowed us to house and then share sensitive information. And so in the United States, the world of data kind of falls into two categories: publicly available data and non-publicly available data. And we call this data over here controlled unclassified information. And it includes information about you as individuals, protected critical infrastructure, health information, and the list goes on and on. So we created a system that allows people to share and access this type of information. And that right here is this part down here. And while this was developed in partnership with Microsoft, it's an open source platform. It can be built on any, it's not specific to Microsoft products, it's agnostic to the actual platform. And from there, then it drove us into kind of smart IoT. So now that we have this platform, we can really start to push information into that platform and start to share it back out to others to build analytics or other types of value-added products on top of that information. And so that led us into the final kind of area, which kind of touches upon water system economics and energy demand management, which is up here in the top corner, which is the final area is this idea that not only is it important to conserve energy, it's important when you use energy. And I'm going to, so now I have a series of slides that I'm going to show you for specific projects to kind of help ground this into reality. And I have a set of slides related to this last point as well. But the final thing I want to say here is that through this process, this 10-year process, we just recently, about a year or two ago, we underwent a strategic planning process where we developed this schematic. So up until 2 years ago, we were just working on projects. And at some point we said, look, we need to have a cohesive vision of what our center does, how it functions. And so this is the schematic that we came up with that represents really all the work that we've done to date, the work that we envision doing in the future, and how they interrelate and intertie together. And it's not to say this is the only way to set up a center like this. It's the way that made sense for us. The other thing that's not represented here that I really want to point out is a very important element of how our center evolved, and this is like hindsight, not foresight, but almost all the work we do is in partnership with the public-private sector. And we have very strong ties to both, and both those groups support us financially, not only in terms of giving us specific research dollars, but also support to help the programmatic elements of our center. And so that largely comes in the form of philanthropic giving. So our center really has what we call a group of affiliates that all work with us on specific projects. And what attracts them to us is really this idea that we're helping drive innovation within this space. So let me go through and just share with you a couple examples of the work that we've done over the years. So in 2015, the state of California was entering its 5th year of drought, and the governor issued an executive order that said, for the next year, you have to reduce potable water use by 25%. And so what's shown here, and the base year, your comparison year is 2013. So what's shown here is the statewide water use in California. The base year is 2013, and when the governor issued the executive order, that was 2016, spanned into 2016. And overall, we effectively hit our goal statewide. We reduced our potable water use by 24.5%, so you round up, it's 25%. So what our center did, so we weren't involved in that effort, but what our center did was then to translate that water reduction into energy savings and greenhouse gas emission reductions. So shown on the far left-hand panel is the energy saved, and this is per hydrologic region in California. So this is California, and these are different hydrologic regions. And then we translated that into GHG emission reductions. And then the next question is, you have to put these numbers in context. What do they mean? And so shown on the right-hand panel, in the blue, that is the total amount of energy that was saved by saving water. And we compared that to the energy that is saved from all the energy utilities' energy efficiency programs. So these energy efficiency programs target light bulbs, they target washing machines from an energy standpoint, and I can go on, but they are focused just on energy. And what you can hopefully quickly take away is that the amount of energy that was saved over that 1 year time period was more than all the energy saved from all the energy utilities in the state of California. So the potential for energy savings through water conservation is substantial. The next final question kind of related to this work is, well, what's the cost of that? And so shown here, the green bars are energy efficiency programs that each of the energy utilities runs in the state of California. So the names aren't important, just recognize that each name is a different program. And we compared the cost of those energy programs to the cost of saving 1 megawatt hour of electricity for each of those programs. We compared that to the cost of saving 1 megawatt hour through conserving water. And the cost of saving 1 megawatt hour through conserving water is shown in the blue bars. And I showed it 3 times because back then we didn't know how long the savings were going to last. They lasted for a year, but they could last for 3 years, they could last for 12. So I showed it 3 different times. But whatever the duration of time it takes, you can see that saving energy by saving water is a very cost competitive way of saving electricity. I want to shift topics now and talk about this idea of it's not only important to save energy, it's important when you use electricity or when you use energy. So what's shown here, this is megawatts. This is the net demand for the state of California for a given year. And I can't remember what year we picked. So net demand is defined as the demand statewide for electricity minus the amount of energy or electricity we put on the grid from renewable sources. So this is photovoltaics and renewable energy. And this is over the course of a day. So the x-axis is a day. And first focus on the yellow line. And what you'll notice is you get this big belly in the middle of the day. And people refer to this as the duck curve, and that's not my name. Apparently it's supposed to look like a duck. But the belly of the duck goes down because that is the time of day when we have large amounts of renewable energy going on the grid, largely from photovoltaics. At the end of the day, when we all get home from work and the sun goes down, we have this big ramp right here, the neck of the duck. And that is a very hard thing to provide electricity for when you're going from something very low to something very high. So what happens is the electricity on the neck of the duck is produced from non-renewable sources. But in order to have that ramp, you have to have a base load generated from non-renewable sources. And so what the state of California is finding is that while we are meeting very aggressive targets for putting renewable energy on our grid, I think right now we're about 30% of our grid is powered by renewable energy. In the next 5 years, it'll be 50%. And shortly thereafter, in concept, it'll be 100%. It's very, so what's happening is we are actually having to pay people to take our excess electricity. So we're not selling it to people, we're not giving it to people, we're paying people to take excess electricity. And the biggest recipient right now is the state of Arizona. So it doesn't make sense from a state perspective of having these aggressive targets of renewable energy if at the end of the day you're just paying someone to take it. So what really needs to happen is what's shown in the dashed line, which is we need to begin to shift load out of the time periods where you see the ramp and into time periods where you see the belly. And if you do that, you'll end up with a figure similar to the one I showed here in the dashed line. So what we've been working with, so the water sector is not the solution to this problem, but the water sector is an important element of this problem. So we've been working actively with the water sector to figure out ways to shift their electric demand into time periods where there's the belly of the duck. And what that has led us to do, so on the top panel is water demand, and energy demand matches water demand. On the bottom panel, what we need to do is disaggregate water demand from the energy demand, and the best way to do that is shown over here on the far right-hand side. You need to put storage in the water utilities, you need to put in IoT, Internet of Things, instrumentation to run the water utility, and you need to have a very, very robust data analytics to help do this. And we're currently working on this at a couple water utilities in the state of California. And the final thing, just to, again, to kind of give you a flavor of the work we've done, I'm not showing you all the projects that we have active, but this gets into the ag sector. And so we have assessed the energy intensity. Shown here is 6 different growing operations. We call them, I think they're referred to as all ranches, but they're growing operations. Some are wine, some are berries, some are row crops. And the colors represent the energy intensity of those operations. And the basic idea is you can see variations in the color, which indicate that these different growing operations have very different energy uses. And it really begs the question, can can different farmers or growers learn from different growers to ultimately help drive down their energy use so that their energy use is less per gallon of water. And one final thing I want to show here, it looks busy, but as part of this, and again, building on this data security and privacy platform that we built, we now are able to obtain energy records of all the agricultural wells in the state of California. And we do that without the permission of the grower, and I can get into that if you'd like, but we get it without the permission of the grower, but that allows us to do several things. So one is we can begin to understand, so shown here is 13,300 records from Pacific Gas and Electric and 3,400 meters from Southern California Edison, which are two energy utilities in California. And we partition those well pumps into 10 different kind of categories, which is shown on the top right-hand panel. And what's being shown here is that some growers are being responsive to time of use energy rates, or time of use, basically energy rates. So they're shifting their electric load. And they're shifting their electric load based on signals from their energy provider. But there's also quite a few on the right-hand side of that panel that are not shifting their load, which means that they're not being responsive to signals from their energy utility. But the ones that are shifting load would indicate that they have the potential. So again, it gets into a question of, maybe this can be used as a way to help educate growers on their energy use and how to shift their energy use to be more responsive to larger issues. In the state of California, that's the electric grid and the amount of renewable energy on the grid. So thank you. I think I'm right on time.
That's quite some fascinating stuff. We're going to have a question and answer period coming up for Frank, Dr. Torres, following that Greg's presentation. So hold your questions. I'm sure many of you have some, especially from these first two presentations. So with that said, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Greg Koch, and he's going to talk about water and food.
Okay. Ready? Yeah, good. Disculpe, mi español es no muy bueno. Still no. Now it's on. Okay. Well, my microphone and my Spanish aren't working this morning. I'm going to start off with a very controversial statement. I think we should all ignore climate change. Should ignore climate change. Now, why do I say that? I feel very strongly that the food-water-energy nexus is the greatest challenge that humankind is facing and will face forevermore. Climate change, yes, is a significant force multiplier, meaning it is going to increase the amount of water stress and its resultant impacts on food security and energy security. But even if we solve, and I hope we do, climate change, we're still going to be faced with the nexus. I feel so passionate that the nexus is the biggest challenge that humankind is and ever will face, that I wrote a book about it with my friend here, Will Sarney, who you hear from in the next panel. So let's break it down a little bit and think about what we know about climate change. So you look at all the models, and yes, climate change manifests itself primarily as water, right? And you see current water stress and how much worse it gets from the effects of climate change. What most people don't appreciate, or perhaps even know, that those models that predict the impacts of climate change don't just consider temperature rise. They all, the IPCC's model, everyone's model, looks at a lot of things, including population growth, economic development, and yes, climate change. And believe it or not, the two biggest drivers of increased stress and these impacts of climate change are, number one, far and above, is population growth. Number two is economic development. those more meat-rich diets, electronics, all those things that are more resource intensive, and then yes, climate change. So the data on population growth, on economic development is very objective, and we have long records and we can make great forecasts. So I feel, and that's why I said the controversial statement, is that people are using the uncertainty of local impacts of climate change and the inability of governments to come up with a holistic solution in time as an excuse to not act. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of water levels, sea level rise right where I live. I'm doing my part to help reduce carbon emissions, but I really can't act beyond that because of the uncertainties, because of the scale of the problem. And that's a danger, because you're using it as an excuse not to act. We know we have existing water stress. We know we have food stress. We have energy stress. We know they're connected. And we know they are getting worse rapidly because of population growth, economic development, and yes, climate change. And so we'll learn more about local impacts of climate change, what it's going to mean for Monterrey, what it's going to mean for Atlanta, Mexico City, what have you. But you don't need to wait to find that out. There's enough business case to act today based on current stress and the connections between them to even allow you to say something as crazy as you can ignore climate change. So now that I have your attention, obviously the nexus is the defining challenge, and climate change is a huge force multiplier. I'm not denying that. But the challenge exists today with the nexus and the trade-offs that exist. And the problem is one of organization. We are not organized as human civilization to solve a multivariate problem. You remember from algebra, you have 3 equations, 3 unknowns, you can solve it, right? So food, water, energy is a multivariate problem. But how are we organized academically, in government, in business, even in NGOs? We have water experts and water ministers, but then we have ag ministers and agricultural companies, and right, we're not organized across society to deal with 3 issues at the same time. We make very smart decisions in one area that can actually have a negative impact in the other areas, and we'll talk about some of those examples. I think what's exciting is what we heard from the Institute is the Tech 21, the new approach to education that you're modeling that takes a problem-solving approach. You know, the skills that are going to be needed to solve the nexus, yes, there's subject matter expertise in all 3 areas, but you have to have a good understanding of the areas where you're not an expert. And more importantly, the skills that are going to be successful to addressing the nexus are skills like compromise, empathy, ability to negotiate, ability to make trade-offs and tough decisions. Those are the skills and the way we need to organize ourselves to address the nexus, because the nexus tells us that you can achieve food, water, and energy security in most places in the world, but there are going to be some tough trade-offs along the way and some tough decisions. So we'll take a little bit of a look at some of those. My focus here is on the food, water nexus. When you look at the 3, right, you see, I've seen this dynamic play out all over the world, and that is that the majority of water use in almost every economy is agriculture. And you're not going to change that. Plants, animals need water for cultivation and processing. The problem is farmers seem to get a pass, right? We think of the noble farmer waking up in the morning and milking the cows, and yes, there are 1.5 billion farmers like that in the world, but by and large, you and I don't eat from them. We eat from agribusiness, but agribusiness gets painted and almost is given a pass in a lot of cases to say, well, there's just farmers, we've got to eat. Well, wait a minute, you know, let's think about the best use of water and where is that food actually going. So the biggest challenges around water use in agriculture, in my experience, I always call them the big 3. One is the pollution that you're causing is the use of agrochemicals and sediment runoff, the loss of topsoil. The second is inefficiency waste, which primarily translates into poorer crop health and energy, right? If you're over irrigating, you're wasting energy and you're probably losing topsoil and you're losing chemicals and it's not good for the plant. And the other is over exploitation, right? Using more water than is actually available in a given watershed. The other aspect is the right crop, but is it the wrong place? This picture is from north of Salt Lake City, Utah. It's a place called Box Elder County, and they grow a lot of alfalfa. And it's hard to see, but those white covers are piles and piles and piles of alfalfa that they're grown using local water. And there's a rail spur you can barely see. I'm not good with cameras. And that rail is going to the coast. All that alfalfa is going to China, right? And so I'm not saying that we don't have a global economy. We do. I love avocados, and they're not grown in Atlanta. They're grown in Mexico. So I get it. But when you look at water stress and trade-offs, yes, there are people that are profiting from this, and yes, there are people who need that alfalfa in China to feed their livestock. But the impacts on water are local. And so the nexus is going to require that you consider the broader implications of what you're growing and where. The two other big challenges I see in the food-water nexus is one, waste. We've talked about that, you've heard about that, and I love the data that you presented in terms of waste.
Antonio, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, very short, because regulation are beginning to show up, and evidently policies need to be transformed into regulation. And currently we have a very negative attitude toward regulation. We don't want them. And industry sometimes doesn't want them either, okay? And I'm thinking that the regulation, the problem with them is that when you don't have an assessment of whether the regulation is working or not. So for example, a good regulation example, forbidding the use of refrigerant that were causing ozone damage. I'm from Chile. I'm very happy that the ozone hole is closing down. Beautiful. Energy consumption. California said, your refrigerator must consume less energy. Okay? Today, refrigerators are much, much larger, do much more for you, and they consume 5 times less than in the 1970s. But that regulation would have not worked if there was not at the same time a scientifically validated method to evaluate the energy consumption of that unit. So not only regulation, but we need to think of how are you going to measure that correctly and fairly? Because if I want to play soccer and you have a smaller goal, you will win, right? Because I have a big goal. I lose all the time. So when I'm competing as an industry, I need a level field. So the level field needs to be by their regulation and a good test to measure, make sure it works.
Thank you. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, but I want you to thank our panel. They'll be around to answer questions, and we'll go into the next section momentarily. Thank you very much, gentlemen.